All right, so thank you very much. I'll just start the screen sharing and all of that. So I do apologize for being late as well. Those of us who are parents know exactly what a sick kid at home can do for our day. So that's what I'm dealing with at the moment. Today just absolutely slipped through, and I'm very sorry about that. So I wanted to talk to you about Qualtrics. I'm hoping you can see my screen now. Is that working okay? Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping to the 5-slide limit by having 7 slides and talking about what I use Qualtrics for. So I'm a gambling researcher and we do a lot of work in surveys, and I want to kind of challenge the notion of what an online survey can be and by showing you a couple of the examples that we've done in our work. And talk about how now that CQU is moving to a Qualtrics license rather than SurveyMonkey, what this means for teaching too. And I'll point out as well that, while this is a CQU case that I'm essentially making here, there's also, the same rules apply to any other institution here. Let's start off by talking a little bit about how we would use surveys and how it means. And I promise this is the only slide that has far too many words on it. The main thing to think about, I'm a psychology researcher, so I study people, is that there's a bunch of different ways that we can gather data. So, we can do interviews with people or focus groups, and they're fairly intensive, and we're doing a lot of interviews online at the moment and via telephone, and that's fine. But often with focus groups, you want to have people in a room together, and that's a bit of a challenge with all the COVID stuff that's going on. One of the other challenges is getting people into a lab to take part in research for you as well. So that's something that's basically completely stopped during COVID. So I wanted to show you a couple of studies that we've done where we would normally get people into a lab, but we've been able to move it online because of the kinds of things that Qualtrics offers. Online surveys then, offer a way to collect data that doesn't require people to come into a lab. And with the things that Qualtrics can do these days, they allow us to do the types of data collection that we would normally have required people to come into a lab because specialized programming was required. So when I was an undergraduate, I remember lining up for hours outside professors' labs to take part in their research and sit in front of a computer there because they needed specialized programming. And I want to show you some things that we've done in Qualtrics that gets around that. The other advantage, of course, of online surveys is that people can do it in their own time, whenever they want. And we do find that people are doing surveys at 2 a.m. because they wake up in the middle of the night and apparently have nothing better to do, so that's fine. And don't have to worry about our office hours or anything there. So in particular, I want to talk you through a couple of experiments that we've done as well. So when we think about surveys, we generally think of them as fairly kind of dumb instruments that you just put a few questions in there and people just work their way through the questions, and that's about all that happens. And because of that, surveys have traditionally had a bit of a bad rap. So the text there at the bottom, an overview of survey designs, talks about them being a non-experimental research design that's used to collect data, and that's about it. And I really want to challenge that notion because I think that we can do far more interesting things in surveys in Qualtrics. So rather than just being something where you plan out all these questions in advance, what if we could get really interactive? What if we could do something that no one's ever thought of doing in a survey? And that's precisely what Qualtrics allows us to do. And that's kind of how I've made my name around here. So a lot of you will know, if you look at the top left there are these things called gambling inducements, right? So we have this idea of being offered bonus money. If you put $500 into your betting account, they'll match it with another $500 in bonus bets that you can do. And we did a big study on these inducements back in 2018. And what we wanted to do was we actually wanted to give people these different inducements and get them to bet and to see what would happen. So we got them into this survey and we gave them the picture in the top right, which is which team are you going to bet on and how much do you think they're going to win by? And at the top, there's an inducement. So we had these different inducements. My son's just walked in. I knew this was going to happen. And so we got them to, we randomized which teams were linked with which inducements as well. So we're talking full experimental kind of thing. One sec, Tommy. And then we got them to bet, and then we actually got them to watch a match. And it made it a really interactive betting experience. So they could bet just before the match happened, and then they could see if they won or not.
I need to take.
Tommy, I'm in a meeting. Give me 1 sec, okay? I'll be out in a moment. There you go. All right. So we got them to actually.
You are more than welcome.
No. Right, Tommy, give me.
We are all parents, and we all get it.
All right. So what happened was they placed their bet, and then they got to see how the outcome came out. And to do the outcome, we made these matches. And we realized that we couldn't just show them highlights from an actual match because...
I made it like the shape of an A.
That was a nightmare. I feel like that guy on BBC. Does everyone remember that one? Anyway, so we... got them to watch a video, but we couldn't use real footage because we realized that they might actually know the games that had happened. And so if they saw the real footage, that was going to be a problem. So what I did was I played my Xbox for a week, recording myself playing AFL games on my Xbox. And we used that to splice together the footage. And then my brother actually dubbed over it and made it into a little bit of a 1-minute newsreel. So within a survey, we've got people to see different inducements, to place a bet, to watch the outcome of the game, and also to maybe win some money as well. So that was the inducement for taking part. If they got the bet right, then the winnings were theirs. So within the survey, we're even calculating their winnings and giving them a running total. Now that sounds incredibly different to any other online survey that you've seen before, right? Okay. So that's one example of what we've done. And that was seen as, you know, one of the most impressive examples of the effect of betting inducements on player behavior, because we found that when people were induced, they placed riskier bets, which was an entirely new finding. So that's kind of a cool thing that you can do in an online survey that isn't otherwise possible. So here's another one we did. We wanted to have, this was an honours student, by the way, of mine who did this, and this is quite cool. So if you think about pokies, one of the things that is kind of ubiquitous is the interface, okay? So if you, yep, okay, I'm sticking. So if you look at the interface at the top there, it says credit, bet, and win, right? So how much money you've got in the machine, how much you're about to bet on the next bet, and how much that spin has won, okay? And the problem with these is that the winnings get automatically put back into that credit box. So it's really, really easy to just keep betting and lose whatever winnings you've won. So we wanted to see what happens if you change the interface. What happens if there's two of them and they're fighting. What happens if you split out the credits and the winnings, and people can see their credits counting down each bet and can see how many winnings they've got? Can they keep track? So we actually got this honours student, Chris Byrne, to program a pokie into Qualtrics. We had a programming, a pokie actually running in Qualtrics. So this was the standard interface, credit, bet, and win. And here is the alternate interface with credits and winnings and all sorts of additional information. And we wanted to see if they could keep track of their play even better. And they did, and we published. This is an honours student who did some amazing programming within a survey and published his work in a Q1 journal, which is a really big thing. And this is all done because all these things were done because Qualtrics facilitates JavaScript. So you'll see there, the second thing from the bottom is that any programming you can do in JavaScript or HTML5 can be shown in your survey, which brings in all this possible interactivity. So there are all these additional JavaScript settings, JavaScript scripts, all over the internet that you can use at any point and just upload it into a Qualtrics survey. That's where we got these pokies from. So students need to learn how to do this. And up until now, we've been using SurveyMonkey, but SurveyMonkey has a little bit of a problem in that there are limited seats in terms of the license. So we can't give all of the students access to Qualtrics to take part in actually running surveys themselves. With Qualtrics, we don't have that problem because every single student under an academic license, including undergrads and honours, depending on the university's policy, has access to Qualtrics. So it can be used as a teaching tool in any first, second, third honours course, whatever course you want to use. And this is a thing because most students learn about surveys through reading books. About surveys and they might take one or two and that's about it. And their first taste of doing any programming is when they do their own survey, and that's far too late for their learning. So we can actually incorporate surveys into classes. Now, I've put together a series of how-to videos because learning any new platform is difficult for anyone. So if you check my webpage there, I've got 10 how-to videos which take you from here's the interface through to here's how you launch your survey, here's how you download your data, and all sorts of programming tricks in between, adding more as we go when I get time away from screaming kids. In the meantime, anytime I post a video as well, I'll post a whole bunch of things on Twitter there too, so feel free to follow me. I've just given you a little bit of a taste today, just with the slide limit. It's a little bit hard to do much more than that. But on my page there as well, you'll find demo videos with actual working demos of the surveys in there too. So you can see more if you're interested. Does anyone have any questions?
I think that was brilliant, hands down, Alex. I admired the way that you kept that rolling through all of that. As somebody who often gets interrupted with my 3-year-old constantly, I can completely understand how you feel right now.
Yeah, 3 and a 5-year-old, and they've just come out and started debugging mum now too, so I'm in trouble.
It's the witching hour, it really is. Thank you very much for all that you could have given us today. Look, if anybody has any time or any questions for Alex, now is your time. Jump in there now, please.
Yeah. So questions come through on the chat there. Is the platform a consideration? Yeah, so it's not a free survey platform that you do pay a university license. There are different license level, an license or a lab level license. Or a school level license. And I tend to find that if you can't convince your university to pay for it, work with your school, because the difference between a lab license, which has a few restrictions to it, to a school-based license is not very much in terms of cost, but in the features that you get is much better. So, talk to DDRs or things like that if cost is an issue. Obviously, at the moment in universities, that's a bit of a tricky conversation. But what we are also seeing is that some of the IT type people, I don't know who the IT people are and what they do, but some of the systems people or whatever are bringing in Qualtrics because it kind of ties in with some of the other systems, things like payroll and HR and stuff like that, student evaluation surveys and things like that. And it does have a bunch of powerful features in terms of linking in with existing systems that other things like SurveyMonkey don't have. Or don't do so well. So, that's really what they're pushing, and certainly something that's worth having a chat about. Yeah. Having said that, the other option is to collaborate with someone who does have a Qualtrics license. So you can always do that as well.
I know within LDI, Qualtrics is something that we've discussed within some of our meetings, and it's something that we're pretty excited to get our hands on. We are those Java HTML nerds in the background, so we're pretty happy to get our hands on something that we can really make pretty and utilize to the students so that they can give us some really genuine feedback other than just those clunky boxes that SurveyMonkey offer us.
Yeah, so it is something that we've been working with. We've got a active pilot going at CQU in terms of some of the courses, including one course that I teach, which is a research methods course. That's why I'm from this angle too. There was one additional point there, is that the cost has recently increased substantially. Qualtrics was bought out by some company. It's one of those 3-letter acronyms, and I can't remember what it is. But they've also recently sold them. So costs are expected to drop again. I don't know if they're going to drop to previous levels, but costs are expected to drop there in line with that sale. All right.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much to all of our presenters today. Yeah, I think all of our sessions were very interesting. I think we've all walked away with something there. And look, if you do have any more questions, our presenters today, please touch base with them, Alex Russell, Shang Zhang, and Seema Zakhag. Look, we do have our next round of sessions will be starting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I am just going to pop a little link in our chat now just to our program. So if there's something there in particular that you want to have a look at for tomorrow, please jump in. But yeah, I would like to formally conclude our sessions for today. And it's 4 o'clock Queensland time. So everybody, it's time to knock off, I think. Thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely afternoon.